Okay, this should be a fun video. One of the things that a lot of people have been talking about over the last couple of weeks is the Eastern Conference wildcard race and how it is just an absolute logjam right now. I would say from the third spot in the Atlantic Division to second last in the Eastern Conference, all of those teams are contending. All of them. All of those teams are within, I think it's like 5 or 6 points. They are still in the race, and it's actually kind of crazy to think. So we're going to go through the entire Eastern Conference playoff race here today and talk about whether or not I think certain teams will make it, the status of certain teams, how hard their schedules are, and all that good stuff. But I do want to keep in mind, it is January. It is January when I am making this video, and a lot can change between January and April 100%. But let's get into it. I'm going to start off with the teams that I think are safe. The teams that I think they're comfortably in a playoff spot. Again, a lot can change, but I think that these teams, for the most part, are safe where they are right now. The Washington Capitals, I think they're miles ahead of every other team. They are they're almost 20 points clear of a playoff spot. They are fine. The Carolina Hurricanes, they're also fine, 64 points. They're more or less battling for home ice advantage there with New Jersey Devils, who are third in that Metropolitan Division. So those 3 spots for me are generally safe, which is why I think it's harder for an Eastern Conference team to make it as opposed to an Atlantic team. The teams that are safe on the Atlantic side, however, are the Florida Panthers and the Toronto Maple Leafs, who are both battling for first place in that Atlantic Division. Outside of that, it is it's a bloodbath. It is absolute war in that race. Again, as I said, like almost every team is competing. That's what makes this really fun. But let's hop straight into it. Starting off with the current team, who is in the third place spot in the Atlantic Division. I also want to preface that this changes every freaking day. Like, at the end of tonight, this could be completely changed. But right now, the Ottawa Senators hold that third spot in the Atlantic Division with a record of 26, 20, and 4 for 56 points. They are 7-2-1 in their last 10. They have the 25th hardest schedule. They are averaging opponents that are placed 17th. So they have a very interesting schedule. And I think that for how they've been this season, they've been pretty impressive. Again, they're almost 10 games above 500. They are playing at a really good level right now. If they can keep on strapping together wins and win consistently, I don't know, maybe they could run away with this third spot in the Atlantic Division. But right now, it really depends, because they are tied with the first wild card spot, and that being the Boston Bruins. The Bruins, in 51 games played, have a 25, 20, and 6 record for 56 points. They are 5-3-2 in their last 10, and they have the 12th hardest schedule of any team in the National Hockey League. You guys know, if you've been watching the TikToks, if you've been watching the podcast, you guys will know that I am not fully bought into the Boston Bruins this year. I just don't think they are as good as they've been in previous seasons. It's not the fact that I think that, this team is bad, but I feel like, again, I think there needs to be some changes. If they make the playoffs, we might not see that. But I think maybe missing the playoffs might be a better option for this Bruins team. And again, they're only, yes, they are in a wild card spot, but they are only a point clear of 2 other teams that are trying to catch them right now. So again, it really is like a massive bloodbath in that conference. So you really have to see there. The same thing with Ottawa too. The Bruins are also at a disadvantage too, because they have played more games than anybody else in the conference. So again, that does not put you in that great of a spot. But for the teams that have games in hand, they have to win those games in hand for them to actually be a good thing. So obviously that is a factor there as well. Now, the team that is currently in the second wild card spot is the Tampa Bay Lightning. The Lightning have a record through 48 games, 26, 19, and 3 for 55 points. They are 5-4-1 in their last 10. They have the 22nd hardest schedule in the NHL. Yeah, I think that they have the games in hand, which is a big advantage. But again, as I said, I think you need to really you need to win those games in hand for them to really matter. So that's the other thing you got to look at there too. But I think that overall, I think they probably do get into a playoff spot. I'd be shocked if they didn't. Just because like they actually went on a skid this past week. I think they lost like 3 of their last 4, so not ideal. But again, I think for Tampa, they should be able to make it into a playoff spot. Knock on wood. But again, like it is still really close and really competitive. Like there's a lot of teams that could get in. And honestly, if I'm the Washington Capitals and you're the first team in that Eastern Conference by far, you got to be wondering like, who am I going to play? Who am I going to play? I'm not so sure if I want to play Tampa, if I'm being honest with you. Anyways, moving on from that, those are the teams that are above the playoff line as of right now. But again, that can change. That can 100% change just because of how close things are right now. Now, the team that is outside looking in, but they're tied with Tampa Bay for points, is the Columbus Blue Jackets. The Jackets have a record of 24, 19, and 3 for 53 points. They are 7, 2, and 1 in their last 10, and they have the 3rd hardest schedule in the NHL. So that puts them at a severe disadvantage because, again, you are one of the harder schedules in the NHL, and it's going to be very difficult for them to probably climb their way up, possibly. But again, they've already been defying us so far this season, so I wouldn't put it past them if they really do break in and make the playoffs. But again, it's January. It's still so early to tell who can really make it and who can't. I could sit here all day and make predictions and be like, oh yeah, Columbus and Boston will get in. Oh yeah, Ottawa and Tampa will get in. But in the end of the day, we don't really know. So we'll have to see where things go from here for Columbus. Their schedule is going to play a factor for sure, but I think with what they've been able to do, I feel like they can stay in contention at the very least. But we will have to see. The other team that is also just barely on the outside looking in is the Montreal Canadiens, who has played 49 games played this year, has a record of 24, 20, and 5 for 53 points. They are 6, 2, and 2 in their last 10, and they have the 15th hardest schedule of all teams in the NHL right now. Again, Montreal and Columbus are the 2 teams for me this season that like completely blew my mind. I did not think they were going to be as good as they are. I thought they would be the 2 probably bottom teams in the divisions, and I just thought that because I thought the Atlantic was going to be really competitive this year. It is, but it's not as competitive as I thought it would be. Yeah, I think Montreal has looked terrific this season. Lane Hudson's looked really good. He is probably the favorite to win the Calder right now. Cole Caulfield has been scoring at an unreal level. Might actually pot 45, maybe even 50 goals this year if he does keep up the pace. But we'll have to see. Again, I think guys have played really well in this roster. It seems like they're finally clicking. And that was something that we really lacked the last couple of years. Like, they lacked that sense of, playing well and clicking and not dealing with injuries, too. That was the bigger thing. Like, this year, they have been a lot healthier. In other years, they've just dealt with so many injuries that has just stopped them from getting to where they wanted to go to. So, I think with Montreal, seeing them actually play healthy and play well has shown that, yeah, this team can really play pretty solid. So I like the direction that they're going from here. But I do hope, though, for the sake of Columbus and Montreal, that if they are going to contend, they do make the playoffs. Because, again, I think that losing out on a higher draft pick that they could have gotten otherwise isn't ideal. Again, you want to make the playoffs. You want to take steps. You want to be closer. But, again, if the following year they aren't as good, like they look like Detroit at the beginning of the season, I think that we're going to look at this past year and be like, ugh, if only they were bad and they got a high pick. Again, something that you got to think about, though. But again, it's a long way from the end of the season as well. Next up, the New York Rangers. The Rangers are a team that had a massive fall off, and now they are having a massive comeback. In 49 games played so far this year, they have a 24, 21, and 4 record for 52 points. They are 6, 1, and 3 in their last 10. They have the 14th hardest schedule of any team in the NHL. The Rangers, the last 10 games have looked like the Rangers we knew they could be. They have points in 9 of their last 10 games. I think they have been looking unreal on that back end. And I think that if you're the Washington Capitals, I don't really know if you want to play the Rangers just because of Shesterkin and that overall team. Like, Shesterkin, he has awoken and has shown that he is good. And I think that, like, if I'm Washington, again, they look like really good. They just signed Logan Thompson at the time of making this video. But again, if I'm playing the Rangers, I'm like, I don't know. I think they probably would beat them. But again, like, we'll have to see. It is January, though. So, I'm going to say that so many times in this video, but it is January. I don't want to jump to conclusions this fast because, again, the stratosphere, this whole race could change entirely within the next, week or two. So, again, we just play it by ear. But I thought it'd be fun to make this video because of this. The Red Wings. The Red Wings are next up in the Moshpit. They have played 49 games this year. They have a 23-21-5 record for 51 points. They are 6-3-1 in their last 10. Yeah, after Tom McClellan, the Red Wings have gotten a lot better. They look like the Red Wings we thought they were going to be. And the offenses woke up under McClellan. The forwards have all really played good. Cam Talbot's winning them games for sure. You're also winning games, too, against teams that you need to beat. Like, they beat Montreal, and they beat Tampa this past week. And I think you need those wins. You need those points against these teams that you're competing with. So, good on Detroit for playing well this past week, and maybe it will continue. But, again, not really too sure because they are 5-6 points out of a wild card spot. So, you have to win out and jump 6 teams. Now, notice how I mentioned all of those teams are all playing awesome right now. They are all playing so good. Besides, I guess, Tampa, because they did just go on a little bit of a losing streak. All of those teams are playing well. And that's what makes this really interesting because even through all of it, they're all playing so good. That's the craziest part to me in my eyes. Next up then, the Philadelphia Flyers, who through 50 games played this year have a 22-22-6 record for 50 points. They are 5-4-1 in their last 10. It seems like whenever Philadelphia gets a couple of games above 500 and they play really good, they'll crash and burn. They'll go down below 500 again, and we'll start having the conversation of rebuild, high draft pick. It's funny because we'll get into that conversation every other week. 1 week it's playoffs. Holy crap, we can maybe make it. And then the other week it's high draft pick, lottery. So yeah, I don't understand. So yeah, we'll have to see where that goes from there. But the Flyers are in an interesting spot. They have the fourth hardest schedule amongst any team in the NHL as well. So yeah, not ideal there for them whatsoever. By the way, the Wings have the hardest one. The Wings have the hardest schedule, so that makes things even more harder for them. But hey, they're playing good. We'll see if that continues. Philadelphia, they've been on and off. Next up then, the New York Islanders, who are just behind them. The Isles have played 48 games. I think they have the least amount of games with Tampa Bay, with a 21-20-7 record for 49 points. They are 7-3-0 in their last 10, and yes, they have won 4 games in a row. They have looked nothing short of remarkable on this stretch in the way that they've been playing this season. Again, I think that it would be better off for them to maybe try and sell at the trade deadline, possibly, and, try and go down that route. But it seems like Lou Lamoriello, when this team gets hot, he's going to go out and make a big move. So we'll have to see what happens there. But again, I'm not too optimistic there with the New York Islanders, even though they are winning games. I think you would be better off crashing and burning and selling at the trade deadline and getting more assets. But when has anything I've ever said made sense or matter? Next up then, the Pittsburgh Penguins. They are the final team for me that I would say is really contending. The Penguins in 51 games played this year have a 20-23-8 record for 48 points. They are 3-6-1 in their last 10. They had the 10th hardest schedule amongst all teams in the NHL. Yeah, Pittsburgh for me, they're not good enough at this point in the season. They are just, they need to have a fire sale. They're going to end up probably winning games at the end of the season. Then they'll end up coming close. People will be like, oh, let's run it back. And then they end up, doing the same thing over again. So, yeah, I don't really know what to see there with Pittsburgh. It's obviously going to be complicated because of Crosby. But, yeah, for me, it's another year of them thinking they're in the race, but really not being, to be honest with you. And then the team that is just out. The team that is out of the playoff race, we'll go into them a little bit, as the Buffalo Sabres. They are not in it this year. It's over. 18-26-5 through 49 games played, 41 points. They have a 4-6-0 record these last 10 games, and they have the 5th hardest schedule. So everything is not in Buffalo's favor. They've really struggled in the month of January. They have not played well. They are almost 15, 16 points clear of a playoff spot. They are that far out. And again, they have the 5th hardest schedule. So for them to really turn things around, it's going to have to take a miracle, an absolute miracle for them to get back into the race. They did it last year, so I wouldn't be surprised. But yeah, another rough year from Buffalo. And that is the Eastern Conference wildcard race. Again, there is literally, like, we just went into, like, 7 or 8 teams there that could contend for it. So, again, that just shows how fun the race really is this season. But I do want to preface, as I've said multiple times in this video, it is January. I don't want you guys to get blown out of proportion about, oh, this team's making the playoffs. Maybe they will. Maybe they will. But again, it's January. A lot can happen in 3 months. So we will have to see. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. What teams do you think make the playoffs out of this conundrum that's going on? Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed, make sure to like the video down below. Please subscribe if you're new as well. I would greatly appreciate that too. But that's it for me. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.